Hi there, welcome back to the Big Thinker episode. In today's episode, we are going to talk about systems and processes. Now, before you say, oh, Jeff, not systems and processes, I just want to shout out to Gino Wickman and Dr. Douglas Brockman. Now, when I first learned about Gino Wickman's book, I think it was Traction and then it was Rocket Fuel, or maybe it was the other way around. When I first read his books, I fully understand the power of systems and processes, but I went, not for me. And what I thought was it was something somebody was trying to impose. And now when I look back and I've read further and I've dug deeper, I realize that Gino Wickman is driven as defined by Dr. Brockman. And he created these as not as a cage to put me in my place and hold me there as a visionary leader, but he built it as a guardrails for him as a visionary leader. And it's fascinating to me the more I study leadership styles, and I get to know the people I know and admire and respect that I find out they're visionary, then I'm able to look at their tools with a little bit more open mindedness. And for what it's worth, I'm working very hard to um, eliminate biases in my world and to find um, opportunities and to find the way things can apply to me. So, one of the things I will say is I've now realized, as a visionary leader, and I would encourage other visionary leaders to consider this, systems and processes will literally set you free. Now, I'll give you an example and then I'll walk you through. And spoiler alert, there's going to be a tie into artificial intelligence here. So, um, as a visionary, I have started many businesses over the years and I was really excited about them. And I thought, this is the one, this is going to have the potential. And one of the challenges was nobody I brought in to help me ever did it as well as I did. And the mistake I made was I just assumed that, I'm a visionary leader and I'll hire another visionary person and they'll be just like me and we'll figure it out. The mistake was if I did find another visionary, they had a different vision from mine, they had different experiences from mine. They could possibly do a lot of the things I could, but they didn't do them as well as I did because they didn't care about them as much as I did or give it the same priority I did. Then I tried to hire integrators and I got really frustrated because if I have 10 ideas and I hire an integrator, somewhere around the third, fourth, fifth idea, they get overwhelmed because they're trying to build safety net and I'm trying to evolve and build a company that's growing. So that was my experience with systems and processes. And full disclosure, I've read every book of Michael Gerber's that was relevant to me. I read the E-Myth, E-Myth Accountant, E-Myth Mastery. I think read E-Myth Managers. I read a lot of the E-Myth books and I went, okay, I get the power of it, but it's still, I'll explain. I was trying to document processes at a high level. I was not the person to ever get it down to the detail level. Then I read David Jenyns' book, Systemology. Brilliant book. Love David. He's got some amazing ideas. And I realized that having a process for creating processes was important. Now, the piece that was missing for me is I am not the guy ever to build the detailed, minute processes. I'm the guy to come up with a big picture and say, here's the vision, here's what it should do, here's what it should look like. Not, okay, let's tick these boxes and go. So, the other aha moment for me was that the vast majority of processes I was actually given were terrible. And what I mean by that was they were just boring documents. I'm not kidding. I worked at one job. They gave me a 2-inch thick binder and said, here, read this and remember it all. And I went, nope. So, needless to say, that binder accidentally found its way onto someone else's desk and never came back. you need to make sure your systems and processes are specific and functional and can easily be found. So, all the lessons I've learned about systems and processes, I needed AI to implement. And so, my goal here today is to show you that. I hope you believe that systems and processes are powerful. I don't care how creative you are, I don't care how visionary you are, systems and processes will keep you sane. So if you tell me, Jeff, I feel like a firefighter, I'm burning out, I'm fighting all these fires, I'm doing all these things, it's because you don't have processes. Or if you do have processes, it's because people aren't following them. So I'm going to use the example of McDonald's restaurants, and please don't sue me, McDonald's. I am going to say wonderful things. But my aha moment when I was back in high school, I worked at McDonald's, and the franchisee, Barry, was an absolutely crazy guy. I liked him, he had good energy, but he was just obsessed by. He'd walk around going, "Man, you're getting such a great business education. You're going to appreciate this later in life." And I went, "Dude, I'm flipping burgers. There's no business education here." Turns out I wasn't fully self-aware at the age of 16, but looking back, the aha moment for me was with systems and processes, something that one might consider elite, being a chef and preparing food. You can break it down to the basic elements, and you could get teenagers to run $1 million plus restaurant with very minimal adult supervision. And so to me, that is the holy grail. And that's how some businesses scale and how some businesses fail. The businesses that scale and grow and survive and become memorable, they're built on systems. The businesses that shine brightly and then vanish, they're built on a person. And I will unashamedly admit I've had my share of business failures because I'd worked myself to death almost. I've burnt out more times than I will admit. And you get to a point where you just can't keep going. And the aha moment for me was the thing that's got to change is how I think about business, what goes on in here. And honestly, you know, most of my businesses I started because my heart was in the right place. I had good intentions, but the mindset was, how do I? And then the last piece of the puzzle I'll share is reading Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy, the two books that really hit me in between the eyes, Who Not How and 10x is easier than 2x. And that's the aha moment that every business has 2x activities. And if you want to double your business, you just do twice as much of those 2x activities. However, if you find the 10x activities, you don't have to work 10 times harder. You're working 10 times smarter and you're producing 10 times the result. So I just want to share that. And the secret from Sullivan and Hardy is you find the right who, and that's one of the fundamental challenges. Smart people figure out how to do something. Um, Gifted smart people, and the reality is the answer is not how do I work harder. The key is in the leverage of the who can do this for me question. And again, this is where I struggled. I'm smart enough to figure things out. So I'd spend months learning how to do something. And then after that, I'd realize nobody cared or it wasn't a big enough impact. And so, as a recovering accountant, what I thought business meant was, the more qualifications you get, the more certificates you have on your wall, the more you charge per hour. And what I didn't realize was that that was a very finite business model because Jeff can only work so many hours in a day and he can only charge so much per hour. And it's a recipe for burnout if you build your business that way because you own a job. Now, the accounting firm model gets better because you start to add layers and you start to have delegation. And that is where I think people get lose some of the point is that most of the time, energy, and attention is focused on the mundane details of how do we manage the people, how do we manage the workflow, um, nobody is, as I think Stephen Covey said, looking up and seeing if we're in the right forest or not. So we're solving problems, and I'll be specific. I work with a lot of accountants who ask me the question, how do I do more tax returns? And then they think that more tax returns equals more revenue because that's the way their business is set up. And my question is, why do you want to do more tax returns? And they'll quickly say, well, I don't want to do more. I need to make more money. Oh, okay. That's a better question. How do I make more money? Spoiler alert, it's not by doing more tax returns. So I promise I'm getting to a point about systems and processes. When you do more tax returns, you end up with more work. You end up with more clients. You end up with more deadlines. You end up with more pressure. And so when you ask, how do I get more tax returns? That's 2x thinking, because the average accounting firm, if it doubled, you would start to see the power players, the partners, the senior staff dropping because they're working twice as hard. Now, I believe that tax returns are a necessary evil. We need them to be compliant. We need them to do some things. However, I want to throw this shot across the bow of the accounting world out there. The real value is not in the filing of the taxes, it's in the actual preparation of the management accounts. And what I mean by that is no good business can truly make decisions and run unless it knows what's going on in the management accounts. So here's the secret. If you help your clients, if you train their bookkeepers, work with their bookkeepers, you don't want to compete with bookkeepers. But if you collaborate with them, you get better quality books at the end of the year, which speeds up your tax preparation process. That is a 2x approach. Okay. And I promise this applies to any other business. But if you can break down the pieces of bookkeeping and create systems and processes, then you can look at the tax process, break it down, create systems and processes. And the goal is to take as much off the plate as your senior people as possible, so that they're just there to check things, to review things, to make the key decisions. And basically, you want to get most of the basic work done by lower cost labor. You can outsource it, you can hire it, I don't care. But the real power, and this is where 10x thinking comes in, is if you sit down and you put on the hat of business advisor and you do all the wonderful calculations, or more accurately, have someone do all the wonderful calculations for you, you can add enormous value to a company by saying, why did this change? What have you thought about this? People will pay you more to look forward and try to help them navigate the future than they will ever pay you to keep score and look at what we did in the past. So for any business, what I challenge you to do, and I've shared some other content on this, my Heaven or Hell exercise, for example, my 5x5 success habits as well. What I do is I have my very, 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 very best mind do a thing. Whatever that thing is in your business, if it's flipping burgers, cooking fries, the triage system in emergency rooms, the medical system, they get it. And that's how high paid surgeons can be high paid surgeons. They've got systems to prepare patients for surgery. They're not changing bedpans or cleaning sheets or whatever. They're just showing up for the surgery. So in business, as a visionary owner, I challenge you to just show up for the surgery. So what you do, go into ChatGPT and explain to the system what you're hoping to accomplish, and then ask for categories of experts that could help you, and then ask for individual experts in those categories that can help you. And by the way, documenting systems and processes is one of my core categories always. And then once I've got the experts, then I'll say, okay, what are some best practices if I was to design a system? And then the final piece is you ask it to draft the systems, and then you ask it to help you refine it and polish it. Now, the secret to scalability is to break everything down into the smallest possible chunk. Think of it like a Lego project. You want to have the individual bricks, and basically then you look at it and say, okay, which of these chunks, processes, can I hire, somebody off the street to do, and which can only be done by my highest level people? And in almost every professional service, the secret is the decisions to do something, the decisions to follow a strategy usually need to be done by an expert. The actual execution can almost always be done by staff. So get AI to help you take your business, break it into the little chunks. And the magic is you'll never do this as a human, but AI can do it powerfully.